What's going on, everybody? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards. We're here for another week in review. What has been happening the last 7 days or so in this wonderful sports card world. Um, per the usual, it has been a crazy week. We got a lot of interesting things happening. So during the time sports were off because of the global pandemic, obviously, and you guys have probably heard this before, no one was playing, so nothing bad was happening. So everyone was just speculating, and things were basically pretty much just um, going up for the most part. No one really went down. No one played bad. No one got hurt. Everyone just went up. No teams played bad. It was great. Well, now real sports are here. And this is the first week we've had a lot of things happen that have caused some guys' prices to go down. So we're going to touch more on that this week than stuff. That's probably 50-50 split. We got a lot of stuff going up. We got a lot of stuff going down. So let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to get through here today. First off, let's dip our toes into baseball. Aaron Judge had a monster beginning of the week. And as you can see reflected by his chart here, and this is basically the trend now, this market is super reactionary. If someone has a good game or games stringed together, like, look the bleep out, because their stuff's going to go nuts. And on the flip side of that, as we'll see here shortly, if someone gets hurt or is not playing up the expectations, we are seeing a little bit more of a rapid decline than we saw in the past when people go to sell this stuff off. So we'll see that in a second. So Judge had a big week. One of his primary rookie cards is the 2017 Topps. This is a very popular one. You could see I just pulled this one. There's plenty of Judge cards I could have pulled. This is just the one that I picked. But all his stuff is basically on the same trend lines. You can see here. Started the week off. This is going back 7 days. I'm sorry, this is going back 14 days. I went back 14 days on this one. Going back 14 days, $100 a card. He's up to $265 a card. So the overreactionary basketball market does seem to be trickling down to the other sports. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this card. The basketball, what is happening and the attention that the basketball market has gotten does seem to be bleeding into the other sports. Now you're seeing it on the Facebook groups. Topps Chrome came out this week in limited fashion to Walmarts and stuff. 2020 Topps Chrome baseball. And people are just buying out the shelf. I don't follow baseball super close, but I know that never happened before. You could walk into a store last year and find baseball product relatively easily. And now people are sweeping the shelves on Topps Chrome. Now, it doesn't have the resale value that basketball does. Can you make money off of it? Sure. It looks like right now it's selling for around 2x retail, 1.5x to 2x MSRP. And I don't know that that'll hold. We saw that with Bowman when Bowman first came out this year in baseball. And very quickly, I don't think people realize exactly how much baseball product is printed compared to some of this basketball stuff. And also the market differences. There are way more people, we looked at it in the chart last week, there are way more people in the basketball card market. So it's able to sustain the higher prices. Baseball has less buyers and sellers. So these people are clearing the shelves on this baseball product. And for the Bowman stuff, the market was there for a few weeks and then it dried up. I haven't checked prices of the Bowman stuff recently, but they weren't reselling for a lot. And remember, when you're trying to resell this stuff, if you, especially if you're going the eBay route, think about the fees and the shipping that you have to pay. You're losing 13% off the top if you're selling on eBay, and that's not including shipping. Now, if you charge for shipping, whatever. But regardless, you're losing 13% off the top. Plus your time running around, going in the stores during a global pandemic, having to ship it, dealing with eBay return, you know what I mean? All the shenanigans that go along with it. Just be careful on some of the stuff that you buy. If you're in any of the Facebook groups, I'm sure you see it. I don't mean to be picking on baseball, but you'll see people clearing the shelf of like Optic Baseball and Prism Baseball because they don't know what they're buying. They don't realize that Panini baseball products aren't licensed and that stuff does not hold great value. So, as always, do your homework on this stuff, guys, before you get crazy into it, and know what you're buying and what you're selling and how the market views the product that you're buying. Sorry, we kind of went on a tangent there, but it is what it is. So regardless, that's the baseball talk. Let's move off baseball and let's jump into football, and then we'll get into the meat and bones of the basketball talk. So this is an interesting one. I stumbled across this while doing research for this video. Saquon, base Prism, PSA 10. Started, and this is going back 14 days as well, because I just wanted to capture a little bit more of the chart here, but this really took off about 7 days ago, for the most part. Started the 2-week period off at 158, ended it at 417. And you can see here on the graph, at 8.3 it was at 188, and then all of a sudden it spiked. And now it's up to over 400. Football in general is all trending up. We are a month out from the season starting. It looks like, fingers crossed for fantasy football drafts, that there is going to be a season. So this is, back when when sports had regular schedules and off seasons and everything's a mess right now. This is what you would see. Things would drop as the season wound down for the teams that weren't in the playoffs and stuff. And this goes across the sports. Then the off season would first hit. The playoff guys would spike. Then the off season would hit. Everything would dip a little bit. And then it would slowly start to pick up steam. And then a month before the season started, 2 months before the season started, you'd see everything start to shoot up. Saw it a couple weeks ago with Lamar Jackson stuff we talked about on here. Baker Mayfield stuff's been going nuts. All the quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. This is the first time I've seen a non-QB position make this big of a spike. I don't know. So here's the thing about football. And I don't dabble too much in football. Most of my quote-unquote action is in the basketball market. Football, the quarterbacks drive everything. To me, I don't know what caused this sudden spike on Saquon. I don't know if it's just natural progression because the season's starting, or once again, the market is catching fire because of the basketball trickle down, essentially. Something to keep in mind, guys, when you're buying football, if you're looking at football stuff, be very careful on running backs and wide receivers, but more so on running backs. The football market is a quarterback-driven market. It's been that way forever. I'm not saying it can change, but there's a big reason behind it. One, they're the highest profile players. Two, and if anyone has ever played fantasy football, you'll know this, running backs get hurt all the freaking time, and they have a very short lifespan. Even the best running backs in the league, 3-4 years tops, even an LT, Ladanian, or, Zeke, whatever. Zeke's still kind of the pinnacle, but, if you go back a few years, Sean Alexander, back when LT was on fire, was the number 2 fantasy football pick for 2 to 3 years in a row, just putting up monster numbers, and then literally fell off the face of the earth. Same with Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson. I mean, there's plenty of guys. The list is a mile long. these running backs are one tackle away. I mean, anyone in football is one tackle away, but the running backs in particular are one tackle away from just their career basically being over. Um, if you're looking at this from a PC standpoint and you just like the player, do whatever you want. If you're talking from an investment angle, I would not be touching running backs in football. I've been seeing a lot of buzz on social about um, running backs being trendy. Are they going to spike up? They might, but man, I would not want to be holding on to them long term because the bottom falls out quick. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention Saquon really quick because his stuff just really spiked the last week, and I don't really know why. Like I said, I assume it's just the lead up to the season, but none of the other running backs are going crazy. Well, I should take that back. Zeke was creeping up slightly as well, but not as much as Saquon. So, but just be careful with running backs and football in general, especially non-quarterback positions. So, let's get into the meat potatoes. I can already tell we are running long. Shocking. I say that every video. Um, let's talk about uh, what we mentioned earlier. Guys going down. So sports are back, and guys get hurt. This is the tip of the iceberg for guys getting hurt. We got a couple here to go through. First big one was Jonathan Isaac. He was semi-trendy. He came out, played really well in a scrimmage, played really well in a game off the bench, was putting up really nice numbers, and then tore his ACL. So you can see here, this was about his peak, and then boop, and this is just his 2017 base Prism Raw, nothing crazy. Had a high of $32, and now is down to 12. I'm going to imagine this keeps trending down. Torn ACL is a big one, especially as late in the year as it is, and with the season coming back potentially around Christmas. He's likely going to miss most of next year, and they will probably ease him back in to next season. I wouldn't be completely surprised if he just doesn't play next year at all. Complete red shirt. I could see that happening. So you're looking at sitting on him for a year plus. So the sell-off has started. We're going to talk about buying these injured guys in a second. This is one. It would have to get pretty low. Now the point of entry here is low, where it's already down to $12. If these things hit like $5 and you want to blow $50 and pick up a handful of them just in case, I get it. It's fine. But that's going to be a very long-term hold. Like you're looking at least a year plus before that investment even starts to turn back around again. So he's just a straight avoid for me. Next up, Jaren Jackson Jr. We have his base prism and his PSA 10 prism up. He was playing really well, and then he hurt his knee, meniscus. I haven't seen an actual time frame for how long he's going to be out for, but this is a much more short-term injury. He's not going to be out for a year plus. He should be back by the time next season starts back up again. But his prices have taken a hit. Now, not as drastic of a hit. His PSA 10 is only down 5%. His raw is down 15%. I believe these will continue to trend down just because nothing's happening for him. He's not playing. I would keep an eye on these. This is someone that if you like the player, I would consider picking up a couple of his cards. This is not a major injury. I mean, knee surgery is always major, but in the grand scheme of things, this is not tearing an ACL or PCL or something like that. Russell Westbrook has had this injury before, and he came back just fine. This is something that you can rebound from. So if you're a believer in the player, I would keep an eye on his stuff. There could be a buying opportunity here. I'm going to guess his stuff craters out during the playoffs. We're going to talk about this in an upcoming video, but typically what you see is all the money flows to the playoff guys, and all the non-playoff guys get forgotten about, and their prices start to creep down. So he's going to bottom out somewhere in the playoffs, I think, before he starts going back up again. So there could be a buying opportunity there if you like the player. Next one, and this is an unfortunate one because we talked about this player and card on a recent video that this Ben Simmons PSA 10 Optic was a nice buying opportunity at around $200 based off the difference between it and the Prism. And that was the case. I bought one at $200. just over 200. The card spiked up to around 250 to 275, and then he got hurt. So the best laid plans don't always work out. Um, so as you can see here, his Optic PSA 10 and Prism are both down 25%. Now, what is interesting here is how big of a hit he took compared to Jaren Jackson. Now, Jaren Jackson's a lot cheaper price point, but they both had knee injuries. And Simmons is another one that we don't actually know what's going on yet. We know that it was a subluxation, which essentially means his kneecap popped in and out, but they haven't determined whether he's going to have surgery or non-surgical option. There's a chance he's actually back by the end of the playoffs if they would make a deep run. Now, without him playing, that's going to be difficult. However, this is one I'm closely keeping an eye on because especially the Optic at the price point that it is, I would not personally hesitate to pick up a couple more of these depending on how far they dip. So I'm going to be tracking this one because he is a superstar player. He has his limits and he has his flaws in his game, but I thought he was relatively underpriced to some of the other players of the same caliber as him. So, and this was once again not a major knee injury. It was not a torn ACL where he's going to be out for a year plus. This is something that he may miss this playoffs, but he's going to be back fine to start the season. Um, so depending on how cheap this gets, there could be another buying opportunity here. So I'm going to keep an eye on these two, specifically the Optic, to see how low they get down and see if I could find the floor and pick up a couple. Because we've seen what the ceiling is on this, and not even the ceiling, but when it's trending in the right direction, what they can do. So you can, if he's playing well again, you can make a logical case that if the market stays the same, you should be able to get back up to those prices, no problem at some point. It just depends on what the news is on him. So keep an eye on Ben Simmons if you're looking for something to jump into. Okay, let's go to the opposite side. I'm sure you guys have seen this on a billion YouTube videos already, so we're not going to spend a bunch of time on this. But this is the flip side. Michael Porter Jr. Coming into the bubble, he has been a trendy prospect all year. The hobby loves him, and now he had a good game, had a second good game, and had a third good game, and his stuff went nuts. This is a 7-day chart. His PSA 10 silver went from $500 to $2,000. His base PSA 10 raw, or base Prism PSA 10 went from $220 to $530, and some I've seen these go for upwards of $600 before. So yeah, you missed the boat. I think I don't think it makes sense to buy into him at this point. I like the player. I think he can be really good, but buying into a market this hot on a player seems like a fool's errand because you've missed a large portion of the profit margin. Don't get driven by FOMO and feel like you got to jump in on something unless you truly believe and think he could just be, the next Luka, which I don't think he could be the next Luka, but a lot of NBA analysts really liked him in the draft and really like him to this day. And so far, he's been playing great. The key to him holding this value and potentially going more is if the Nuggets continue to play him. Malone is typically, their coach is very hard on rookies and does not like to play them. That's why he didn't play much all year. They were forced to play him because of injuries, and he's been playing well. So if he gets playoff run and keeps doing what he's doing in the playoffs, his cards are going to keep going up. If you think that can happen, then maybe pick some stuff up. But I would look towards maybe the secondary stuff like his Optic and Select, just depending on what your budget is, obviously. But yeah, good old MPJ. We had to talk about him. His just an epic run. I'll save it for a mail day. I picked up one of his cards last week, but we'll talk about it in a mail day. Probably early next week. I got a couple other things coming in that I'm saving that for. So we're already running drastically long. Here's an interesting one. Zion and Ja Prisms, PSA 10s and Raws base. Let's scroll down and look at this, shall we? Just look at it. That's a lot of red. Two things are contributing to this. Both their teams are playing like ass. I should say one major thing's contributing to it. That both their teams are playing like ass. And Zion he's had some flashes, but boy, has he not looked good in the bubble. And then he sat a game yesterday. And it looks like for the time being, they may have hit their cap, and Zion's taking a bigger hit than Ja at the moment. Not much difference, but percentage-wise, um, they're a lot closer. The dollar values look bigger because Zion was starting at a higher place. But um, yeah, just interesting. The Grizzlies, everyone just assumed, myself included, that the 8 seed was a lock. And they won their first game yesterday. They're now 1-5. They still probably have a decent chance at the play-in, at least making the play-in game, whether they're the 8th seed or the 9th seed, and they have to win one game or two to make it in is a different story. But they're still trending that way. But it is far from secure now, like it was when this thing started. Zion, the Pelicans are basically DOA. I don't know what the math is until they're eliminated, but he's playing poorly. The Pelicans are playing absolutely terribly, and they're going to be going home soon, which is not a huge surprise. But Zion playing terribly on top of the Pelicans playing terribly and sitting games, I believe, is causing this. So I'm going to keep tracking this on the week over weeks to see what happens. I think, as I mentioned last week, Zion's going to keep slowly trending down until it reaches a certain point, and I honestly don't know what that point is. And then he'll start going back up again, would be my guess, as the hype builds for next season, depending on the off season and all that stuff. But I think we've seen the highest prices we've seen on him for at least a little bit. Ja could still flip the script if they start playing better. Now, the loss of Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be trouble. But if they can lock in the 8 seed and make the playoffs, then Ja could get a nice little boost. Originally, that looked like a lock. We are far from that being a lock now. So I have concerns about both their prices trending down. I think Zion's will trend down quicker than Ja's. So this was just an interesting chart when I pulled this up to look at it. I'm like, I Facebook messaged a couple people from some groups that I'm in, and I'm like, wait, sports cards can go down? That's something that can happen? And neither one of these guys are hurt, like Simmons and Jaren Jackson that we talked about. These guys are, I mean, you could say Zion's quote unquote not in shape, but he's not injured. And their stuff's trending in the opposite way. And this is 2 weeks in a row for Zion. Remember last week's video, we looked at Zion, the same chart on Zion. And he had gone down slightly, just a little bit. And the last 7 days have not been kind to them. So, and now we are officially going way long. 2 more left to go, and I'll get you guys out of here. Devin Booker. Suns have been playing extremely well, and his cards are going nuts. This is his PSA 10, BGS 9.5, and Raw. They are all up 50 to 60% over the last 7 days. They have just been looking extremely good. So, and he got an earlier bump because of the Gary V stuff earlier in the week, or earlier in the couple months ago, I think that was when Gary V kind of gave him a major price bump. We could see it here if we go back on the 90-day chart. Yeah, back in late June. So he was kind of trending along. Gary V sends an IG post. Boom. Trending right. He kind of spiked back down a little bit because, the people sold off. And then it kind of leveled out a little bit. And then the Suns started playing well. And zoop. Right back up again. So, Yeah, his stuff has been going wild. And then our last one on the list, and this is just more. I like to compare Luka to Zion and John. I usually like to throw Tatum in the mix too. And this was an interesting one that I found in regards to maybe a possible buying opportunity. I'm not sure if it's still there though. Luka PSA 10s and 9.5s of his base prism and his base optic. Uh, they're still going up. Luka has been putting up insane numbers. But the Mavericks haven't been playing that well as a team. The team just does not know how to close out games. But his PSA 10 base Prism is up to an average of $1,400 almost, up another 20%. His Optic is probably going to crack $1,000 before the playoffs start or around during the first round of the playoffs if he keeps putting up huge numbers. And then this is the BGS 9.5. The interesting one here was the BGS 9.5 base Prism was basically even on the week. You know, it's averaging around 800 to 850 on this chart, while everything else is up 20%. This one basically stayed the same. Now, I'll tell you, I went to look on eBay at the time of recording of this video. The cheapest one on there was for 900 or best offer. I don't know if that'll still be there by the time this posts. Um, but given what everything else is doing, if you wanted to get in on a Luka bandwagon, at that price point, I would either go for that or the Optic PSA 10. I'm a big fan of the Optic PSA 10. It is a much harder grade and a much lower pop count. I'm not big on pop counts, but I just also like the look of the card. I love the Optic look with the rated rookie logo and all that, and it's just a clean looking card. Um, I don't know. This is just a weird. It looks like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant with the one leg up in the air like that. But I have both, so it's whatever. But yeah, that's the last one I have for you guys. Sorry we went extremely long, but it was a busy week. So, oh, thank you guys. We cracked through 400 subs. So thank you for getting us over that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.